Women are back! Women are back! After 2 shows without women in Kamen Rider! And 2 of those women! We are back, baby! Personally, I really actually do not care that much. However, since we are getting guaranteed 1 woman in the newest entry mice, maybe 2, maybe even 3, might as well make up for the fact that this short was completely wrong. Kamen Mice is a woman? So let's look over the women who have become Kamen Riders over the years, but no side content, no movies. We are here for the main show because obviously no one watches those. So let's look over the women who have gotten what they deserve and the women who got done dirty.
Standing by.
Faiz is the first show that we have gotten women in the main show henching, and yeah, we are not doing so well. Sure, we got 3 women henching, however, all of them are temporary and they still kind of get screwed over to an extent. Psycho is up first, and I mean, yeah, she does get screwed over, but this isn't a women issue. This is just Lucky Clover issue because like they're just kind of forgettable. There's only like 1 or 2 members who are just kind of relevant-ish. Other than that, forgotten. Rina especially gets screwed over because I mean, she's kind of cool, but she only henshins once and then gets her ass kicked within like 5-ish seconds. And Saya is the best of 3, however, she ultimately gets killed off, which is very disappointing because I would have loved to see a rider who just acts so kind and wholesome normally, but in the fights itself, she's just an absolute menace. Unfortunately, I have never watched some of these shows, and Hibiki is the only one where I have never watched a single episode of it. However, I at least mention them by using the power of wikis. I'm sorry. Suki literally just shows up for 2 episodes before dying, and for some reason, I will say, this is the thing that pisses me off, but for some reason, Akira isn't considered a rider, even though she literally transforms into a rider that is a Buki, basically. And I have not watched this, of course, so I'm just gonna assume she didn't get shafted into background, or at least I hope to God not. No, Batman. Kiva's next, and I'm just gonna say this: Yuri and Megami got handled pretty well. Not a masterpiece, but way better than some of the women we have not even gotten through yet. And I kind of already explained a bit of this in my Women Kamen Rider series, but ultimately, Megami does get screwed over in some episodes where it has the opportunity for her to transform, but Yuri more or less gets handled pretty well as to why she hasn't henshin up to that point. And when they do henshin, it is more or less satisfying in my eyes. And hey, we even get more of Yuri henshin after the episode where her and her daughter transform, but not the best, but way better than some of the shows that we are about to get to that are 10 times worse. And hey, while you're there, go like and subscribe. I sometimes do Toku stuff, but other times I just do other stuff. Clap your hands! So let's get to Wizard, which is Mayu. And if you hate characters being plot devices and not showing up for 10 episodes, then Mayu is your girl. Because she shows up in episode 26, and after 27, doesn't come back until episode 40, where she becomes Kamen Rider Maid. Though, it doesn't matter because she's just really there to be like, hey, I'm also here now. I'm back after not being here for like 20 episodes, basically. Doesn't really matter, though, because I'm just here to henshin, and then afterwards you're going to be like, oh yeah, there's 2 other guys who are also just going to be mind-controlled, and then I'm just not relevant because I'm just here to be basically crucified for a sacrifice. Jeez. Gaim gives us Yoko, who I think is pretty cool. And listen, maybe to some, you kind of wish that Yoko got a little more screen time, but she is kind of a side character more or less, even though she kind of gets, I feel like, a lot more screen time than the other side characters. Though I will say, I kind of maybe wish, you know, we had a little more development of her, like maybe a little more backstory, I feel like. But more or less, I'm kind of satisfied with her as a character. A lot from Ghosts is next, and yeah, she definitely gets screwed over because the moment she henshins, she then de-henshins and then gets absorbed. So basically, she just henshins and then dies. Well, let's just hope the next woman is good.
Huh?
Poppy is honestly one of the best women in the Heisei era, and that is before she becomes a Kamen Rider. And with a henshin device, It really doesn't change her character, but very cool nonetheless. And I mean, when you're dealing with a rider with the ability to pause time, kind of sucks because there's always so much you can do. Pretty good rep for women, if I do say so myself. And if the women who become Kamen Riders do pretty well like Boppy, I mean, surely it means it'll go up from there. And then we get Tsukiyomi, a character that is literally just a plot device with powers. And honestly, forgettable as is. And listen, just because you give a character with little to nothing a henshin device during the last 2 episodes doesn't make them any better. Honestly, I hate her so much because she is so boring, and it becomes a one-time instance where I'm just like, no, don't give her the henshin device. She does not need the henshin device. But like, listen, maybe it'll get better. We are gonna enter the Reiwa era, so hopefully it goes up from there, especially, you know, when the 3rd rider is a woman. I hate my life. Well, Yaiba is an improvement to Tsukiyomi, but not by much. Yaiba starts out pretty strong as a character because, like, I'm not gonna lie, when you see her firsthand, you're just like, she's pretty good. Honestly, better than Tsukiyomi, so, you know, that's pretty good. But then the moment Bowser shows up is when her character goes downhill. She just becomes the lackey for Guy and develops little to nothing because her character is just reduced to basically just a general who's just there. Sure, she gets a power-up, which is not even a rider form, just like a monster of the week kind of form. And eventually she does go up against Guy and win. However, it doesn't feel special because she just uses a form we have seen early on. And then after that, she's just there with really nothing of substance.
What are you doing? Get your sword!
Saber is another show I didn't watch as much, but that's mostly because I kind of watched it for a bit. It got very boring, and by the time the main character got his power up for the first time, I'm just like, yeah, I'm just out of here. And that was a little too late because by the time the women show up, I was just already gone, literally watching anything else.
The One Piece!
So as a result, I can just give my opinion just based on what I heard. And Saber Bella, cool, but a lot of incest with her brother, which is very disgusting and weird. And then there's Sophia, which I already knew her character since, you know, I watched the early part of it. And she's alright, but, you know, just weird because when looking her up, she becomes Caliber. Weird, but now let's get to the good stuff. Especially now since there's no more incest. Oh, come the fuck on! Revice is an show. However, the one thing this show has going is the women! Sakura is honestly one of the best women in the show. Honestly, probably of the whole series. Listen, I heard she was good because, like, listen, I heard apparently she was made this good because she was meant to be the main rider of the show. However, I take that with a grain of salt because, people just pull rumors out of their back ends and give us hopium that doesn't exist to make people look like fools. Kamen Mice is a woman? However, Sakura is a badass as is. And then we get Aguilera, who shows up. And another good character that is cool as well. So, after show, we finally got a show where we have more than one rider that is a woman, and both of them are amazing.
We got a #1 victory royale.
Geats' idea of basically making everyone a rider sounds good, but let's get to the others before we get to Neon. Leather instantly dies. And then there's Sai, who, as Lobo, actually likable. However, I kind of wish she showed up more later on than instead just Daishi. Baraba, absolute badass in my opinion. I love her character a lot. Sarah, I mean, she's likable. But for Neon, well, I can say that she was good overall. A bit shafted once Belfa gets his power up. However, the twist when she basically finds out that she actually isn't the real Neon. It's kind of bad as is, and basically just kind of weird that she loses all her support just for that reveal alone. And then afterward gets her ID core destroyed. then comes back again as a rider, which kind of lackluster, but I will say despite this, not a complete letdown at least, because at least she got a new form.
I activate my bullshit card!
Gotchard has 5 reps, however, ignoring Mime, or whatever her name is, because she was just there. Firstly, the 3 Dark Sisters, who all transform into Dread. However, Clofo is ultimately the main user of Dread, is the worst of the 3 in my eyes, since I feel like maybe she could have gotten more of her as a character, as her sisters get way more development than her overall. And Rene, overall, I like Rene, but I am still salty over the fact that she is the first secondary rider that is a woman, but her debut is in a damn crossover movie. Honestly, she was good, just more or less disappointed for her debut alone. Made a whole video about my disappointment, and yeah, that's all the women. Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. I thought I had another dream about making another Toga video. Oh my God. It's all over. Wait a minute, why am I still open? Oh God, fuck! Yeah, I'm gonna talk about the women's Zeztz. Yeah, even though some of them that do henshin don't count as riders, I'm gonna count them nonetheless. Also, I'm writing this before episode 47, so for all I know, maybe Nem will just become a Kamen Rider in the last episode. First C is Kuroha, which I will say was pretty good until Cinq shows up and just puts her in a coma for 10 episodes. And then by the time she comes back, she just dies for good. Overall, she got screwed over as a character, though I heard it was mostly a scheduling issue with her actress, but that does not disqualify her for being poorly treated in terms of development. Megami was a character who at first I was saying, nah, she doesn't need to be a rider. She doesn't need to be a rider. However, after episode 29, that opinion had entirely changed, and I was honestly hoping for her to become a Kamen Rider. But sadly, that does not happen. She does not become a Kamen Rider. She becomes a Lord, and even then, it's in the side content, which is disappointing because I think people hate the idea of characters becoming pseudo-riders, especially the women, but personally, I would much rather take a pseudo-rider than one who does not transform at all. A henshin is a henshin, and if they are beating up monsters, then it's fine by me. Though, like I said, I wish it was in the main show, and I would have loved her to become like the 3rd rider of the show, but ain't gonna happen, unfortunately. And even though it seems like Nem is not going to henshin, which sucks, at least she did get some character development. And even after the whole, it was a dream, still some development, and honestly, I think she was a pretty good character overall. At the end of the day, there are some characters who have become Kamen Riders and some that have not. Personally, I'm not looking for well-written women. I'm looking for well-written characters who just so happen to be women. I tend to ignore gender of the characters because it definitely sucks to have badly written women, but I mostly look forward to the characters as characters, no matter if they henshin or not. And if they don't henshin, it may suck to an extent, but as long as the characters are well written, then that is something to be proud of. However, if we end up with a character, writer or not, man or woman, if they are poorly written, then that is a disappointment in my eyes. Thank you all for listening to my Take Talk.